Whether you're a lifelong keeper or just getting started, help us encourage responsible keeping, conservation, and public education in the interest of keeping our reptiles safe and healthy as we protect them for future generations. You're invited to spend time with us as we experience these awesome animals together on Intrepid Exotics.
Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Saturday already. It seems like we just had one of these like 4 hours ago. This week has completely disappeared. Oh, okay, let's get the USARK banner up there. Oh, okay. I have been sitting at this desk all day long, going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole, and I'm working on one video. Of course, you guys may have seen that I put out the other video in our conservation series talking about endangered species today and some of the key points on that. So difficult sitting here today trying to organize this whole thing, because every time I would dig into one thing, I'd see a whole different direction that we could go in, a whole different rabbit hole that we can go down. And so yeah, it took me a little while to kind of get things lined up, but we got it. And yeah, definitely get that stuff shared around if you would. A couple things that we're going to be hitting on, like I said, is the conservation. Pretty hard. I know, we do reptiles. We always will do reptiles. I'm going to get my co-host out here at some point as soon as I figure out which one it's going to be. But yeah, the whole conservation thing, it's something that's really been on my mind a lot lately. And it pertains to our reptiles as well, especially when we're talking about human-animal interactions and laws and legislation, all that other stuff. So it all ties together. And it's something I think most of us probably have an interest in to begin with. Like I said, man, we're all interconnected. And so, yeah, a lot of rabbit holes today. But we got the second episode out. And as you can see, I'm not doing coffee tonight. I've been drinking coffee all day long. So I'm going to take a break so I can actually sleep tonight. Let's see who we got with us. Mike is on. Good to see you, my friend. Erica, hello. Christina, good to see you. Man, I just realized how tore up the back of my hand looks. Crawling around through the woods on such a regular basis with all the wait a minute vines and briars and all that stuff, getting out to my spots for the photography. Yeah, it's taking its toll. I had to go buy some new pants the other day because I've completely shredded a couple pair getting out there. Sam, how's it doing? Good to see you. What else we got? Megan is with us. Hello, one of our newest Patreon members. What else we got? Christina says she's going to be listening, but she's got to feed the snakies. Yep. That's going to be on my agenda over the next couple days. So, yeah, Megan says that's an awesome topic to cover. It is. I don't think it gets enough airtime. There's a million channels everybody can go to, or, look at all the ball python morphs and stuff like that. And we've already got hundreds of videos on this channel about snake behavior and handling and all that other stuff. So there's just, like I said, there's just some things that are pertinent to the animal keeping community that I think need to be hit on. So Tara made it. Good to see ya. Panther is with us. Hello. Oh, God. Tara says she just finished her mythology homework and took an exam, got 93%. Outstanding. Mythology is such a fun topic all the way around. Nicole, good to see you. Yes, drink water. Of course. Tara said her butt's been in that chair for 7 hours now. Yeah, I can relate. I'm right about in the same boat. Oh, we got Okay. All right, so that's all of our comments. We're caught up probably for the last time tonight because I always get so far behind. It has been a week. I'm sure I don't have to tell everybody else that. Out here in central North Carolina, our neighbors just off to the west. I know everybody's familiar with what's happened out there. I've been keeping up with some of the footage from out there, and our hearts go out to those folks. There has been a lot of damage. Literally, mountain towns out there just been completely wiped off the map. And right after that, with Milton coming through, that was really stressful for me because my mother lives like a mile off of Tampa Bay, and pretty much every projection had that thing going right over top of her. And Floridians are bullheaded people. If there's any Floridians in here, you guys are the most strong-willed, stubborn as a mule people on the planet. My mother is no exception to that rule. I tried telling her that it wasn't going to be good for them. And, of course, she's lived down there a long time. She's made it through a bunch of storms. So it literally got to the point where I was sitting there talking with her, and I'm looking at her location on a topographical map and looking at what the elevations are with the expected storm surge and trying to, locate where the actual high ground is so we can go over, if anything happens to where the building is destroyed, you just got to get out of there. This is where you go. This is the landmarks you look for so that you're not running into a flood and drowning. Very stressful. Even though under worst case scenarios, as we was talking, even if they would have gotten a 15-foot storm surge, it still wouldn't have went in and flooded them. The only way they would have really got a flood where she was at was if the rainfall flood backwashing in met all of that stuff and then it raised it up. She'd have a couple feet of water, but she's got 2 other floors above her. So there's a plan. So needless to say, as the storm was coming in, was all pretty stressed out, but she made it through just fine. Not a window in her place was broken. Nothing flooded out. Had some water blowing through the windows, but she sent me a picture the next morning of the clear skies, and had a fence bent over, some branches down. Some parts of a nearby trailer park were scattered around the yard, but they made it through unscathed. There's still out of power, but being out of power is expected. And she doesn't have any animals except for the dog. I've got to find my other wire here real quick because my mouse is dying. I think I'm going to need that. There we go. So anyway, dodged a bullet there. Was really worried about her and half expecting I was going to have to go down there and try to find her. But fortunately, they made it through unscathed. A lot of other people didn't down there though, so definitely we need to be thinking about those guys. Let's see, Nicole was just saying she heard there was a third hurricane hitting the opposite direction. I've seen a couple other. I kind of left the meteorology alone for a little while. Just kind of glanced over. I've seen where there was a couple other tropical storms out there brewing. Easy for me to say. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed. We're going to hope for the best. All that stuff too, it ties into what we was talking about in the video today. When we talk about the storms and the worsening storms and the climate, unfortunately, it's so sad that something as clear-cut and simple as climate change has been politicized to the degree that it has. We're not even going to talk about the people that are saying that the government controls the weather. So for some people, there is no hope. But yeah, I mean, that not only does that affect storm strength and frequency and all that other stuff that we're seeing here currently, those temperature changes, just like we talked about in that video today, the more the water temperature rises in the oceans, the more of the coral reefs get bleached out and die. migratory patterns of animals, their home ranges and things like that are going to adjust based on the climate. They depend on rain in order to drink and eat. So, this is something that has far-reaching implications above and beyond just hurricanes. And like I said, another big reason why I wanted to put that video out earlier today. It is just something that we all need to be. We all need to be at least educating ourselves on it. No matter what your position is, no matter what your political affiliation is, doesn't matter. Science does not care about political affiliation at all, one bit. Something is either true or it's not. And it's really important for everybody to, spend some time just kind of familiarizing themselves with what's going on, because it needs to affect the decisions that we make, because it's going to affect the wildlife across the planet and us. So anyway, enough soapbox on that. You guys can go watch the video. It's the latest one that I put on. And let's see, Angela, how you doing? She's a Floridian here. Got lucky in my area. Very bad storm. The most wind force I've heard. Yeah, it was pretty hairy. So, yeah, that was another thing. That was the highest concentration of localized tornadoes in Florida that Florida had seen. Pretty scary stuff. Really is. Hey, Kai, how you doing? This is our biggest issue. It's going to kill the animals. He's not even kidding. I know I should worry about the people more. They keep thinking about the elephants and the whales. People have got the ability to adapt a lot more readily than a lot of animals do. Take somebody in Florida. They can move to Antarctica, take some clothes, learn a little bit of things, get into a community out there, and you can survive. Take somebody from up in Alaska, they can move to a new climate, adjust, we can figure it out. You take certain animals and you move them out of the environment, they're gone. So, humans, we're supposed to be the smartest species, and we can fend for ourselves. All these animals can't. And that's kind of one thing. There was a point that I really wanted to hit with that video too, is because you always get the people that say, those animals deserve to stay in the wild and you shouldn't bring them into captivity, and captivity is no good for them and they're miserable. That was one of the points that we had in that video too, was, the wild isn't always a better place. Especially for some species, they've got a really hard time in the wild. The first video I put out a couple weeks ago on the situation down there in Africa with all the giraffes that were essentially starving to death and dehydrating. All of that stuff should kind of speak for itself. So, Gerard, hey, what's up, man? Good to see you. So I had a couple questions here. I think I'm going to go over, and you'll have to forgive me because I don't remember the names of the person that asked them. But this seems to be kind of a recurring thing. We've gotten some questions about feeding and when folks should be transitioning their snakes over to bigger prey items and stuff like that. I've had a couple more on behavior. A couple people have messaged here recently saying, man, I don't know what's going on. My snake, I tap them down with the hook and then I reach in to get them and they bite me. And we've got some videos out on all of that stuff. But just to kind of answer those really quick off the top of my head. When you're looking at bumping your animals up from a food perspective, we typically think of feeding like every 7 to 10 days, every week or something like that. And say, for instance, with retics, of course, I use that as an example. Think of feeding them every 7 to 10 days. Younger, you may go smaller meals a little bit more frequently than that. You're typically going to feed them once a week, until they get like a year or two old and stuff. And then you can kind of bump their meals up, maybe make it every 10 to 14 days, bump the size of the meals up a little bit. And then as they get older, more mature, you're talking like 5 years old, probably the 2 to 4 weeks, something like that. And, of course, as they grow, you typically, easiest thing to do is look at a prey item and try and find something that's about the same diameter as a snake. It's pretty easy to do with rats. If you've got your snake laid down there and you lay your prey item and it only comes halfway up the snake's body, it's probably time to upgrade your food. Get them, if you're a small rat and it's only coming up a little ways and it's not even as thick as a snake, bump it up to the next size up, check that against it. Even if it's a little bit bigger than the snake is around, it's not going to hurt them. You really don't want to exceed 10% typically. I consider something from 10 to 15% of the snake's body weight to be a pretty good sized meal. For instance, my bigger retic's the one that weighs 80 pounds, 10% of her weight is an 8-pound rabbit. And that's a pretty good sized meal for her. She can take it down so quick, man. She's such a chow hound. So, I could go like an 8-9-pound rabbit with her and she'd be fine. And she's not going to eat for another month, a month or two, something like that. Kind of base that, on how she's looking, how she's acting and so forth. But typically my big snake's eating monthly, somewhere between 1 and 2 months in between meals. But they get pretty good sized meals too. So, but your smaller ones, like I said, you got your babies. You want to do a little bit smaller meals more frequently as they start to grow. Do a little bit larger meals and kind of space them out. There's all kinds of different trains of thoughts about it, but that's how I approach it, and it's worked fine with me for all my animals. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to be throwing meals down your animals where they've got a huge food bulge in them. I've seen some people with like 9-10 foot retics, and literally the food bump is 1.5 feet long, and the snake is like 3 times its body size. You really don't want to do that, because feeding, y'all see it in the wild. Anaconda eats crocodile, and the whole thing is massive and huge. But eating really stresses snakes out because their metabolism adjusts to it, their organs swell and stuff like that. Will they survive? Will they be okay? Probably. But just like anything else, err on the side of caution. So you don't want to be throwing monster meals down your necks. Just enough, and then kind of manage the frequency along with that, and you're good to go. Megan has a recommendation. Book by John Moallem, Wild Ones. Apparently it's a book about wildlife conservation. I'll have to check that out. Definitely have to check that out in conjunction with all the videos as we go along with this series right here. Hey D, how you doing? You made it. I was talking about how cool it is to watch wild snakes hunting. It was really cool. I was out at one of the lakes taking some photographs a month ago, something like that. And right at the water's edge, I was right at the water's edge, down on the ground, getting nice and low with the waterfowl that was out there. And all of a sudden I see something on the edge of the water kind of swirling around. It almost looked like there was a fish down there fighting, and it was. But at the time, I didn't see the snake that was attached to it. There's a little water snake with a massive fish that it had caught. And it had come up. It was coming up out of the water and went and hid in a little root hole. And sat there and watched him for a couple minutes while he was kind of letting the fish die out of water. And I guess I got too close to him because he picked it up and held it up in the air and scurried away back into the water. But yeah, it's always something else to see them guys hunting. Let's see. Yeah, Christina has a good point. She says she generally uses shed cycles as a means of ensuring her snakes are getting appropriate meals. And yeah, as their younger snakes should be shedding fairly frequently. It's different for different species and stuff like that. I don't like to come out and give time frames because then, people will be like, man, it's been a week past and they haven't shed. Is something wrong with them? But, you should see a little bit more frequent sheds when they're younger. As they start to age, their shed cycles might slow down a little bit. There's different shed cycles around breeding and whatnot. But, yeah, it's definitely a good gauge to use. So. One of the other questions is this one fella had sent me one talking about his retic that went in, tapped her with the hook. It started to move a little bit, and he reached in and he got struck. A couple things about managing food responses is that they're going to be different for different snakes. It's pretty common that, typically you can go in and tap down a food response pretty easily. A lot of times they'll take a hint and you're good to go. But there's some animals that will just hang on to that food response and hang on and hang on and hang on. And no matter how much you tap them down, it can take a long time sometimes. So one of the things that I really like to do with my snakes, in addition to just tapping them down when I need to, is just giving them enough time to figure out what's going on. You can't rush it. Tapping with a hook isn't something that's going to automatically, like a light switch, turn it off. Sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not. And you gotta pay attention to the behavior and respond to what the snake's showing you until it shows you that it's changed its train of thought, its frame of mind, that it's into a different mode other than food mode. Then you got to presume that it's still in food mode. So it just takes a little bit of patience sometimes. If you got a snake that's really hesitant to change its frame of mind when you can tell it's ready to eat, just spend a little bit of extra time with it. And when you do go in, instead of just going in and tapping, maybe go in and try and tap them down. If they're still lunging and stuff like that, maybe sit back, give them 30 seconds, give them a minute, whatever it is, just to be in your presence, just to see you. And it's not going to see any food. It's not going to see anything that it can really react to. And then maybe go back in after a minute or so with your hook, try and get them moving, try and see some signs that they're actually starting to explore, or they're turning around, moving away from you, and then you can reach in, pull them out. But yeah, I mean, sometimes that really quick tap just isn't going to do it. And a lot of people will just give the animals time to figure out what's going on. And I know some people that don't even use the hook. They just open it up. They give them a couple minutes to say, hey, okay, yeah, it's not time to eat. They figure it out and they're fine. But Christine was saying that when her retic has a crazy strong food response for a period of time, it usually needs a larger meal. That could be it too. Yeah, I mean, that may be a good indication too. People wondering what size meals to give their snakes. Christine makes a good point. If you're used to them having a certain kind of cycle to their food response, and it's at a certain level, and as they grow and you don't change their prey size, they may have a more frequent food response than they did previously. And like she said, up in the meal size, they're going to be able to go longer between meals, and naturally, hopefully, maybe naturally that will help to curb their food response a little bit. So, good point. Christina is always good for sharing wisdom. Very, very excellent keeper and a good friend. She's saying you can't use the hook. She despises it. It seems to scare I've heard that and I've seen that. I've made a couple videos in the past about overuse of the hook. You'll see that. I seen that with Tigger when I got him. For those of you guys that don't know, he's my 16-foot male retic downstairs. And, you know, a lot of you guys know the story with him, but when I first got him, he was 12 feet long and completely hated me, hated the hook, hated me, hated everything. Charge out of his enclosure, trying to chase me away and stuff like that. He was intent on killing me for a while. Took a couple months of working with him and just kind of being in his presence and getting him calmed down. But you'll see some snakes that will get sensitive to the hook because if you overuse it and, you know, you go to tap down their food response and they calm down and they come out of their food response and they start thinking and the keeper doesn't recognize it and they think that maybe the snake's being aggressive or trying to come at them or something like that. Or maybe the animal has just taken a mistaken food response swing at them and missed or connected, either way. And when people get hesitant, they tend to overuse the hook. And constantly poking and prodding with that doesn't help. It doesn't help to calm them down. A lot of animals, it will just upset them. And they start to associate that hook with something that's uncomfortable. So you can have problems with that. So that's one of the reasons why I always say, you know, especially with things like reticulated pythons, berms, larger snakes, you're not going to hook handle them, and you don't want to. You know, handling these guys, you've got to handle them, especially if you got a bigger one. Now, I've managed larger snakes with a hook before, just by going in ahead of time and maybe using the hook to guide their head away. Oh, excuse me. You know, if I've got a larger snake that's in the enclosure, I'll use the hook, kind of guide their head in and just leave it in place and kind of use it as a guard as I reach down to grab them, so that, I mean, at least there's something there in between their head and my hand when I go to put my hands on them. But you've got to get your hands on them. If you try and overuse the hook, you're just going to make the relationship worse. You got to have the confidence to go in, lift them out, support them, let them see that they're safe, let them see that there's no food there. And, you know, repeatedly doing that is what's going to make the difference. And like I said, you can definitely make snakes afraid of the hook by overusing it. Tommy's Reptiles is here. How you doing, sir? Good to see you. Let's see. Avery's Jungle is here. How are you this evening? And, you know, there's something to be said for that. You hear a lot of people say that they don't use snake hooks. A lot of cases, I don't use my snake hooks. But again, that kind of like when I go into Chloe's enclosure, she knows what time it is. I open up the door. She looks at me. Now, I will say, even with Chloe, even as sweet as that animal is, we've still got to understand it's still a retic. She's still got a hot food response sometimes. So when I open it up, I don't always reach my hand in there. There's times where she starts moving towards me, and, you know, I'll intentionally just back away and kind of let her come in towards my body first. You know, she's going to see this big mass right here and understand that it's not a rat. Hands and those quick motions and stuff like that can sometimes get their attention. Even if they got a slight food response, they might catch it and go for it. But I'll just let her come towards me. She gets it figured out, lift her up. But that being said, there's also times like with my green tree python back there, there's times when I've got to use the hook because I can see that he is so hot and so active. And I've made the mistake before and reached in to grab his perch. And as soon as my hand started going in, he took a swing at me. So there's times that I'll use that, just kind of push him away. But, you know, my bigger snakes, it's kind of a toss-up. I can, you know, after you've had them long enough, you can kind of tell what their frame of mind is. And, you know, I've always got the hook in my hand when I go to open up my big snake enclosures. But oftentimes what ends up happening is Like with Monty, for instance, sweet girl, 17 foot, 80-pound retic. Almost always, just the way her door's made, I don't have anything on the outside that I can pull. Almost always, I unlatch the door and then I use the hook to slide it back. Just because I don't want to have that hand, it's going up, it's catching her attention because it's moving. I don't want her to pick up the heat from my hand as I'm opening up the door and give her enough time to figure out what's going on. So I'll open the door with the hook and I just kind of sit there and let her figure out what's up. And after that, I'll have the hook in my hand, just kind of sitting off to the side. And then once I get my hand on her body, she realizes what's up and it's good to go. And she's all good. Tara was saying she uses her hook on her Sumatran shorttail. Yeah, that's probably a good species to use your hook on. Those are known for being a little bit reactive. I'm still kind of kicking myself for not picking up that one at the last expo I was at in Charlotte. Speaking of expos, I guess Tinley's going on right now. So for everybody that's out there at Tinley, hello. Hope you guys are having fun. I am going to be sitting around here doing video stuff today and photography stuff tomorrow. And wait, today's Saturday. So yeah. Video stuff today. Probably gonna be doing some photography stuff tomorrow. Monday, got to go see about a job. I got a phone call last week, so go see about that on Monday or Tuesday. And then Wednesday we're doing something, probably something photography related. But let's see, Avery says she's putting together a big iguana cage. Cool. Iguanas are fun. They're either really fun or they're really not fun. It depends on which one you got. That kind of made a good point. From what I understand, you need to use snake hooks on wild snakes, as in if you have to remove them from somewhere. Yes and no. It's probably easier. And this is all, keep in mind, we're talking about non-venomous stuff. Anything venomous, you're using your tools, using your snake hooks. And even then, if you don't know what you're doing, stay away from venomous snakes entirely. I've always said that I'm not going to keep any venomous, not unless I end up opening up a facility and I need to have some there for public display, like to maybe show native species or something like the copperheads, rattlesnakes, stuff like that. Then I may keep them. But as far as from a personal perspective, just having them here, no desire to have them, because no matter how good you are, things can happen. Perfect example of that. Last I heard, Dingo was, and I don't know if this changed or not, as you guys may know, Dingo Dinkelman got bit. It was African green mamba? Maybe. I think it was a green mamba that got him. And he was using his tools, he was using his hook, had his gloves on, and somehow that snake got wiry and got around all of that stuff and bit him. And Dingo knows what he's doing. He's worked with these animals all his life. He's very skilled. He was taking all the right precautions, and he still got hit. So, we really hope he's going to be okay. Last I heard, he was still in an induced coma, in renal failure, going through dialysis and all that. Hopefully he pulls through. I haven't heard anything else in a few days. But yeah. Venomous snakes, not even talking about that. We're talking about something like rat snakes or water snakes and things like that. It was really cool. Rob Christian put out a video a few months ago. For those of you guys that don't know, he was he worked up at Nerd for a long time, was in a lot of their videos, and he moved down here to North Carolina and got in with the Carolina Herp Society and all that stuff. And him and Jeremy both live like within an hour of me here. And but Rob is a notorious herper. I mean, he is a guy, he could probably go out in the middle of January and find a snake in 3 feet of snow. every time he ever goes anywhere, he finds something. But he posted a video not long ago of a little water snake that he had come up on. And he walked up to it and just really slowly went up. No hook, no nothing. Went and got up underneath the snake's head and it never bit him once. And I've seen people that can do that and can get up and get on wild snakes and not get hit. But, if you're going to go out herping and you're going to want to start handling the snakes and stuff like that, you got to need to be prepared to get bit anyway. Just like Bob over here when I brought him home. He wasn't wild per se, but handling him, I knew I was going to get nailed at least 10 times every time. Sam's asking where my co-host is at. No, they're not all in blue. I'm going to have to find one really quick. Oh, and Kyle was mentioning the photos. Thank you, man. I'm trying to get as much practice in as I can while I can with all the photography. It's been difficult to find any adult eagles out there after spending days and days and days. Every now and then I'll get a glimpse of a couple. A lot of times it's a juveniles, but we still get some pretty good shots of them. I've got really quick, I'm going to show you guys. I went out the day before yesterday, I don't know, one of these days. The days all kind of run together. But I went out to the dam, the Haw River, a foggy morning, and I've posted some of these. A lot of you guys may have seen these on Facebook already. But I got these home and started processing them, and it just completely blew my mind because as I started to get these things out, man, I mean, these are actual photographs that I took, but they look like they're paintings. I'm going to share this screen with you guys real quick so you can see it. Just absolutely blew me away. These cormorants, the place where I sit on the river, there's these logs across the river right there where these things will perch up at. And got really good shot. All these guys hanging out and his egret in the background. You can kind of tell looking at the camera, oh yeah, it's a cool shot. But when I got these things back and started processing them, it just blew me away. I've got several of them from out there. And that fog just makes everything look. Yeah, it's one of our juvenile bald eagles that needs better color grading. But yeah, these pictures out here in the fog were just really mind-blowing after I got them processed. Some of these things really blew me away. The lighting effects on this, with the light coming off those roots in the background and that dark log in the water, they were flying by. Just absolutely crazy. Yeah, I got some pretty cool stuff out there. I guess I can probably pull up one more just because I really like it. I did get one pretty crazy shot of this juvenile bald eagle. I cannot wait until I can start getting the adults out there, because these pictures with the actual adult bald eagles where you get that contrast and the eyes will stand out that much more, I cannot wait until they really start getting active out there. Yeah, not only has it been a lot of fun, it's been very relaxing. With everything that's been going on here lately, it's nice to just get out there and disappear into the woods for a while. And like I said, man, this whole thing, part of that whole experience is what's kind of drawn me to the conservation issues, because 20 years ago, I wouldn't have been able, well, 40 years ago now, I wouldn't have been able to go out and do this because those bald eagles weren't out there. This particular area they did a breeding and release program out there where they reintroduced the eagles out there, and now there's 25 active nests in that one area. I just sit out there and think about that. What would I see if I'd have been going out there 100 years ago? How much more wildlife would there be? If I go out 50 years from now, what's going to be left? So that's all I have to think about. Spend a lot of time in my head reflecting out there. It's still pretty cool. Let's see. Yep, everybody's confirming that it was a green mamba that got him. Hey, Turtle, good to see you. Glad you made it. Jason Phillip, good to see you. I love the Dobie picture. Dobermans are beautiful dogs. Absolutely love them. Okay. Avery says Dingo's been 8 months ago because he was at was Dingo at Animal Con? I know he probably was at not the last one, but the one before. Because I just seen Kevin McCurley put out a video about that too, like a week ago. So unless these were like a year-old videos or something like that, year-old posts, and I just didn't recognize it. But yeah, if somebody can confirm that. I don't think Dingo was at this past Animal Con. I think he had been bitten by then. Let's see. Let me see if I can get down. Yeah. I keep saying that I'm going to get everything set up to sell prints, but I'm such a slacker. Definitely something that I need to get busy on. Yeah, well, Christina lives not too far from Jordan Lake, so she's familiar with that, and of course she works at a university near there. So yeah, it's really cool what they've done as far as bringing that back. Let's see. Okay, we're almost. Who's at Animal Con this year? It's just an Animal Con. I don't know. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Don't forget to like the video. Get subscribed to the YouTube channel. We got a long ways to go. We was all excited about hitting 10,000 subs, but our next benchmark is 100,000. So definitely get it out. Get some people on board. One of these days, we'll end up hitting 100,000 subs mark. But it's slowly but surely. We'll get there at some point. Okay, Sam was saying he got bit September 30th. That sounds about the time I started hearing about it. Yeah. I love how Christina can keep me on track as I start to ramble here. USARK.org. You guys can see that down at the bottom. And I should have that. Yeah. It's got USARK.org. They've got the YouTube channel, which they really need to start putting out more videos on a USARK YouTube channel. Definitely do. And USARK Florida. Both of those are really good. Daniel Baker down there does some phenomenal stuff, and Florida has been a spearhead on a lot of things, good and bad. So USARK Florida and USARK National are two really good organizations. We'll go into that a little bit before we sign out here. Did I? Oh, okay. I was just checking the clock. Can't believe we've been on for 45 minutes already. Time flies. Let's see. Yeah, Sam was saying Dingo's at Animal Con 2023. That sounds about right. Like I said, I don't remember anything about him being at that this time. I don't think he could have made it. Let's see. Tara, super chat time. Tara says, we all need to donate a super chat since Tim's too lazy to sell his pictures. Man, I am not a hustler. I have just got the hardest time putting things out and selling it like that. I think it's just a mental block. I am not a businessman. I am just happy to take them and share them and put them out there and let people see what it is that I'm seeing out there and seeing what all we can do. I need to get over that and really need to start putting some of this stuff up, especially as this fall comes, because I'm really starting to get the editing and the camera and everything figured out and really starting to get some decent stuff. So it's coming. Keep the peer pressure on. I will be putting prints out there at some point soon. So thank you for the super chat, Tara. Let's see. Still have no co-host. We got to fix that. Come on, girl. Come on, sweetness. Come see me. Come on, come see me. Come on, come see me. Come see me. Can you come see me? That's what I'm talking about. Damn. See, there we go. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is how I pretty much handle most of my animals. I just give them a little bit. If I can look at them. With her neck all outstretched like that, she's not coiled up. She's not ready to strike at anything. She's just like, hey, where you been? So I can touch her, and she's fine. Come on. Come on, girl. Come on now, be sociable. She just shed not too long ago, so... You sweet girl. Get the shit out of there. Yeah, she gave me a nice, perfect shed not long ago. Okay. This crazy. Get out of my eyeball, please. Thank you. One of my favorite animals right here. He is my female Burmese python, who was given to me way too early and had to be force fed for the first 3 months of her life because she refused to open her mouth for any reason. And she's a straight chow hound now, as you can see. It's amazing how big she's gotten. I still think of her as my little friggin' noodle. But I'm no good at selling myself. We got to get him a nature OnlyFans. Maybe I need to do that. Just start up an OnlyFans and just completely disappoint everybody. I could have pulled that off about 30 years ago. Let's see. I'm 51 now. 30. Well, I don't know, man. I was a stud until I was about 30. Things didn't start to go downhill until after that. So yeah, 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I could have pulled off a good OnlyFans, but unfortunately, that wasn't a thing back then. Now I'm 50 years old, and just walking a mile out into the woods with my camera gear kills me. Yeah, where Kai's at, it's 7:45 a.m. 7:45 p.m. here. All I gotta do is upload him to Etsy and wait. I haven't even used Etsy. I guess I need to look into that. And contests. should probably do that as well. I am kind of, see, this is the thing too. I don't know, any of you guys that are familiar with imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is essentially where, yeah, I guess it means that you're humble enough to question your own abilities and to not let yourself get overly confident. That's something that I try and do. This is something that's been me my entire life. There's things I may know I'm good at it, but I never let myself get arrogant about it. And I'm constantly questioning my own performance, especially when I'm starting something new. So I'm fairly new to this wildlife photography thing. And of course, you know, I'm looking at all the professional photographers and watching people like Simon D'Entremont, who is just fantastic and phenomenal, and seeing all the stuff that he puts out and learning and practicing and all that stuff. And it just doesn't feel to me like I'm where I need to be. You know, I'm getting some stuff that I'm able to get close. I understand that part of it's a gear issue. There's just a certain quality level that I'm not going to be able to hit with the gear that I've got. But I mean, when I look at these pictures that I take, I don't see hardly any of them that are up to the level that I would consider really good. As far as a snapshot thing and stuff for sharing on social media, they're great. They catch some really fantastic stuff. But I don't know, I guess I'm still new enough to it that I want to give it some time before I really start putting stuff out there and doing, you know, photo contests and stuff like that. Yeah, you got to understand, I didn't get this camera that I've got now until, I mean, how long's it been? I've had it maybe 4 months, something like that, 4 or 5 months. And I was shooting off this little crop sensor before, for a few months before that. So I'm still green enough that I feel like there's some things that I need to get better before I really start putting myself out there. But there again, I'm in a lot of these photo groups on Facebook and bird watching groups on there and stuff like that. And I throw a lot of the pictures that I take up there, and they've been getting a lot of attention lately. So maybe we're starting to get things figured out. We'll see. But it's getting there, slowly but surely. Yeah, Jason has a good point. I've watermarked all of my stuff. I've got the Intrepid Exotics 2024 across the bottom of all my images. But I mean, fact of the matter is, I can go into Lightroom and erase watermarks all day long. You can go in, there's ways of, you know, copying the photos over so that there's the metadata is all gone, it's all changed. So, I mean, you can do certain things to protect your work. I think if it ever really becomes an issue, you know, if you've got the images with the metadata burned in, like all of my stuff that I take, if you go into the details on the file, it'll tell you what camera it was taken on. I think it tells you shutter speed, aperture, and ISO and stuff like that as well, dates. But yeah, I mean, there's ways to get around watermarks and all that other stuff. If you do any kind of photo editing, it's really pretty easy. But there again, you know, I do this because I enjoy it. And it's, you know, I mean, it's just kind of like a YouTube thing. I had been making the videos for 3 years because I enjoy making the videos and I enjoy interacting with the community and stuff like that. It has been a huge help, especially since, you know, the job situation here about a month ago. You know, the Patreon and the ad revenue off the YouTube channel and so forth has really been a lifesaver. And it's given me a little bit of breathing room to, you know, make a good choice in where I decide to go into next. But like I said, I do it because I like it and I don't want to make it all about money. Yeah, I guess there's this thing in the back of my head where, you know, you do something that you love, and as soon as you start doing it as a job, then it becomes a job and you don't love it anymore. I guess in a way I'm kind of afraid of that happening. But I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, it's one of those things. I tend not to push things to go fast. I do what feels right, and I let things evolve into what they're gonna evolve into. You know, if this photography thing is something that's meant to be, then, you know, things will get attention, offers will come in, I'll see some opportunities and I may chase with it and stuff like that. If it doesn't, it's still going to be something that I just enjoy doing. If for nothing else, just seeing some of the amazing, you know, things that you can catch on that camera. It's the coolest thing in the world when you see something going on. Just like I caught a picture not too long ago. I showed you guys, I think it was on the last live stream, of these two eagles, one of them upside down, and it was fighting over a fish. But it's cool because in the moment, things are happening so fast that you're just so focused on keeping everything in the center of the frame, holding down the shutter button, making sure that everybody's staying in focus. And you don't see what's going on until you come back and you get the card in the computer and you start going through, because I'm shooting 20 frames a second. So there's 20 pictures for every second that I hold that shutter button down, and you just see every little instant in there. And some of the coolest stuff comes out. And I don't know where I was going with that, but I was just thinking of that moment, and I was really excited when I got those pics. Can't wait to start seeing some of the other stuff that we can get this fall. Chase made it. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Our newly married friend. Chase recently tied the knot. Sam said, I got to toot my own horn. I've never really been good at that. That's the weird thing about the whole YouTube thing a lot of times too, is that, you know, the whole reptile thing, it's kind of brought me back to a state of mind that I had lost early in my life, because I started in martial arts and then the military, and you do a fair bit of teaching in martial arts, do a fair bit of teaching in the military. And that was always something that I really enjoyed, you know. But of course, I'm a civilian now. I don't fight anymore. I have no desire to inflict that amount of pain on myself anymore. And that was just one of the things. It's kind of funny because I know I'll get kind of into when we're talking about reptiles and stuff. But one thing about me 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever in the hell it is now, long time ago, people would literally, I mean, they'd know me socially, and then they might walk in and see me teaching or coaching or something like that, and it's just an entirely different person. It's just an entirely new energy, and that's something that reptiles has kind of brought back. Just kind of having something that I'm studying and have studied and practiced and been proficient at. And there's a lot of people that do, and there's a lot of things that I can put out about it. So it's been, would you let go? Come on, get over here. Her tail. Would you stop? She keeps grabbing onto the chair and pulling me over. Here, hold my hand and not the chair. But so yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I think in a lot of ways, the reptile thing and all of that really brings back part of me that, for all intents and purposes, was dead for a while. That is cool. Come on. You're on the desk and you're raising hell. You're a bad co-host. Stop getting into everything. Just look into the camera, look pretty, and smile. Look pretty. Come on. Look pretty. Got eye tracking on, so as long as it's tracking your eyes. I love this natural color pattern on the berms. Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, Tara says she was talking about me getting Athena out, and that's exactly what she does. Yeah, Christina was saying y'all need to look out for more nature photography contests and flood my stuff with. If you guys know of any local photography contests, you see them come up and you think about me, feel free to send them to me. Maybe what I'll do, and I'm always kind of hesitant when I start putting up the photography stuff, or start talking about something that's outside of reptiles, like the conservation thing. Yeah, you can get some people say, "Man, this is a reptile channel." Well, yeah, it is, but there's other stuff too. Like I said, 3 years and hundreds of videos about reptiles. There's plenty of stuff out there. And if people have specific ideas that they want to hear new information on and stuff like that, always up for that. We still got some stuff on the behavior that we can talk about. And there was another one. There was a couple other video ideas I had too. But yeah, I'm always a little bit hesitant to put too much of the photography stuff out there. But what I may end up doing here is I'll go through, and I've been thinking about doing this for a while. What I'll probably do is go into the community page on the channel and start posting 5 pictures and have everybody rate them. Whichever the best picture is out of that group, I'll set it off to the side, and I'll repeat that 4 more times, each with 4 more groups of 5. The winners of all of those, I'll put into a list of 5, and then have people select the best one out of that, and maybe that's the one that I'll enter into the contest. So that means you guys as a community can pick which ones you like best and which ones you think will win, and we'll put it in and see if you're right. So said Athena hanging onto my eye made you laugh. Yeah, almost made me laugh too, except I was worried about her pulling my contact lens out. Let's see. Indoor Jungle is on. Hello, good to see you. That is hard to tell in that thumbnail. Is a snake. Just too small to tell. Almost kind of looks like a boa, but I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah, Christina said, imposter syndrome is rampant in academia. As well it should be. Yeah, that's one thing, especially with the cultural climate being what it is today and everybody thinking that they're right just because they say it. That's one thing you'll find. The collegiate, intellectual, academic, whatever you want to call it, community, scientific community. If you're in a scientific community and you talk out your ass and say something retarded, then you're going to immediately take pressure for that. If you put out a paper that's completely out of touch with reality, you're going to be informed of that immediately. You're either going to be proven wrong or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I mean, that's one of those environments where I think people are a lot more concerned with what's true. Now, because I mean, in the military, you are your reputation. If you're an honorable person, people know that. If you got balls, you stand behind your men, you do what you're supposed to do, you don't cry and whine. People know that, and you get respect for it. Kind of the same thing in academia. If you've got the courage to get your facts straight and put them out there for everybody to rip apart, then you get respect for that. Kind of trying to think and talk and read through comments all at the same time, but yeah, I'm just going off on tangents here and there. This whole thing about truth and accuracy and facts and not bullshitting people, it just hits me so much harder, especially around election time, when we're this close to an election where there is so much bullshit flying around and things that are not true and people that have absolutely no respect for facts or truth, it can be difficult at times. And I'm going to leave it right there, because after my last couple of videos where I ranted about that, I resolved I was not going to address that on the channel again. So I'm not going to. But the only thing I will say is that the truth matters, and people that tell the truth matter, and always be leery of people that lie to you. Somebody says something and you find out it's not true, it should immediately give you pause. But anyway, enough of that. Christina says, Tim, listen to me. Watermark your photos and submit them for contest. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. I can hear myself reading what you just said, and I will comply. So I'm getting all this positive feedback here, and I'm not going to read all of them. Yeah, it's really cool. I love that you guys are so encouraging on this, and I'm glad folks are appreciating it. It is, like I said, it's a lot of fun, and I've been really surprised at the quality of some of the stuff that's come out. So, let's see. I'm going to roll through here. Christina says she's loving the support from everyone. Heck yeah, this is the reptile community I've been hungry for. This is, it is, man. That's one thing. I've said this before. I'll say this a million times. The channel hasn't grown fast, but it's grown right. Everybody that's associated with Intrepid has been great. Patreon community is great. And it's just been a really positive experience all the way around. And I know along the way I've pissed off some people, but I think I've chosen the right people to piss off. Because, there's certain values that I think anybody should maintain, regardless of whether you're in the public eye or not. And those are just values that I stick to. And the end result has been that we got a really awesome community here full of some great folks. And it's no matter how tired I am, no matter how little I think I've got to talk about, and even after sitting here and talking to the camera, recording all day long, these live streams I do always look forward to them. It's good to just sit here and interact with everybody, and sometimes I got stuff to say, sometimes I don't, but you guys always make it fun, and especially make it fun on the Zoom calls afterwards. I'd really like to see some more people get in on that, man. We've got about half of our Patreon community right now is paid members. And I put out a message to the free members on there earlier. Any contributing tier gets in on the Zoom calls. So, and like I said, it does make a huge difference, definitely for the channel. And we've got some great supporters in there. So, the Patreon link is always down in the description of all of the videos. I may actually be a slacker on the live streams. I know sometimes I forget to go into the description and add stuff to it, but I will try to remember to do that tonight. I'll do that while we're on the Zoom call. So, let's see. Yeah. Now, that is something Tara was saying. When we do the educational events, I can have a board to sell the art. I have thought about at some point doing up some prints. The only problem is it's kind of hard to get reptile shots that are impressive as two bald eagles fighting in the sky or something like that. So I've wondered how well like bird and flight photography or just nature photography in general would sell at reptile events. I think it would do okay. But I mean, that was another thing that I was thinking about doing is over time, collecting up some prints, getting them framed, taking them out, getting a booth at a reptile expo or something like that, and seeing how much interest there is in them. So, and of course, if it does well, then I can continue to produce and maybe up things that way. Ain't that right? What do you think? I can take pictures of you. I just got to find the right backdrop because you're a pretty girl. Have everybody with a picture of you in the living room wall. What do you think about that? If you'd have came anywhere but here, you probably wouldn't be here right now. You wouldn't be here, but you'd probably be dead since you was born such a bonehead and wouldn't eat. Sweet girl. So yeah, I talk to my animals. I'm not light years behind in the comments, just a couple years. Let's see. Hey, Christina, Jason misses your terminology corrections. We all do. Christina knows her stuff, and she is not afraid to ensure that everybody gets it right. That's something that I really enjoy about people. I would much rather, and it's funny too, because people can get so butthurt about somebody saying something negative to them or correcting them and stuff like that. I mean, I am literally I'm very concerned about making sure that anything that I say or think is actually true and accurate. So if I say something or present something that's wrong, and somebody comes and says, "Hey, man, it's actually this," or this is wrong and this is why, and it all makes sense. I appreciate that a ton, so I'm not perfect. Far from know everything. And, the longer you do this, the more topics you hit and the more research you do. Sometimes you find things that you might think are accurate, but they're not. So, yeah, I definitely always appreciate anybody who's going to correct me on something. I mean, don't be a jackass about it, because I can be a bigger jackass than anybody I know. But if you're right, you're right. And so, yeah, definitely. And I definitely appreciate the fact that Christina will always tell me the truth if she thinks I'm off base with something. It's one of the reasons why for a long time there, we would call and bounce off of each other. We get pissed off about something, we pick up the phone. Let's see. Yeah, Christina was saying, you will get fried in academia if you don't have data to support your claims. And it's such a frustrating thing seeing social media and all the bullshit that flies around out there. But the sad part is there's so many people that get so deeply ingrained with things that are simply bullshit that even if you show them evidence of something, it just bounces right off. So that's probably the most frustrating, most saddening thing that I see. Kind of the lack of rationality in people in general sometimes. Yeah, Nicole mentioned, I mean, this is something that we deal with a lot, is people spreading misinformation about snakes. Ed Takoa is a perfect example of that. A lot of you guys probably know about him. He's a British guy who's got the two young daughters that for years he's been posting pictures and videos of them being raised with those reticulated pythons. He catches so much heat and hate for that. And he spent years fighting off the misinformation and the rumors and the myths and all that stuff. But yeah, it's really cool to watch his kids too. His kids really are really good with those animals, and vice versa. So, yep, truth isn't always convenient. So very true. Yeah, we do all kind of live a smart ass. I think most of us are all smart asses in here in our own special way. Keeps life interesting. Need to discuss my photography rig. Thinking about upgrading mine, but I don't know if it's worth it. That's another thing that I was thinking about doing a video on too, is just kind of going over the equipment, because I have had several people ask about that. Of all of the research that I've done, and now there's going to be equivalents with different brands that I'm not familiar with. I shoot Canon stuff. When I first got started, my first camera was this Canon M50 Mark II. It's a 24 megapixel crop sensor. And I was shooting that with this. Here, let me put this girl back and I'll show you guys real quick. Okay, so let me get this out of the way so you can see a little bit better. So this is my wildlife rig right here, and I've got the I've actually got the microphone that goes on here. I got a shotgun mic, so when I'm out in the field, the mic will sit right here on this little rack, and it's hard to see the perspective on here and two-dimensional and stuff. But I've got it elevated because if I put it down here in the hot shoe, and it sits right over here, then the whole time I'm recording, you can hear the autofocus mechanism in here. But this lens is actually, this is the lens hood. So this lens is a Sigma 150 to 600 millimeter. So when it's put out to 600 mil and the lens hood's on it, it is a pretty sizable, lens. But I run almost all of my wildlife photography through this. I did previously have it on the 24 megapixel crop sensor that I'm using to record this on right now. But at that small of a resolution of picture, at a 600 mil, being a crop sensor, it's a 1.6 crop factor for the lens. So that's what crop sensor means. So when I put this lens on that camera, it's the equivalent of 960 millimeters, which means you get extra reach, but you don't get a whole lot of information because of that 24 megapixels. I got some decent stuff, but even reaching out that far, I wouldn't, you can only get so close to these animals, especially when they're flying away and stuff. So you can only crop in so much before you just lose all your detail. So the camera that I went with was a Canon R5, and right now, one of the best full frame cameras out there, hands down, is a Canon R5 Mark II that just came out. The R5, of course, is a previous version that does really, really well. The autofocus on it, it's a 45 megapixels, so you get a whole lot of detail in your pictures. You can crop into them really well. And the tracking, it's got eye tracking, like birds can be flying by, and I'll hit the eye tracking on it, and it'll pick up the animal, and you'll see it in a focus box until it gets close enough, and it'll pick up the eyeball of birds in flight and keep that in focus as it's going, which is so crazy, especially being an upgrade from this other camera here. And that's the whole key to catching these animals as they're flying by, is being able to have them in focus. So I'll lock onto these things, and it'll lock onto their eyeball as they're flying by, and then take 20 frames in a second for every second that I hold it down. So I'll come back anywhere on a slow day, like the other day, I came home with 1,200 pictures or something like that to go through. On a busy day, when I got a lot of stuff going on and a lot of good animals to shoot, I'm coming back with 3,000 to 4,000, which is a lot. It's mind numbing, and it takes up a ton of space on your computer. But I guess really quick to answer your question. All of the research that I did led me to upgrading to the Canon R5 because it's got the full frame sensor on it, and it's real easy for me to catch these images. It focuses really well, and then I can always crop in on these and still have a lot of information and a good image to work with. The lens, that Sigma 150 to 600, is about, you can get these now $600 some places on Marketplace used. I paid $1,200 for mine, but there's a contemporary and a sport version. This is a contemporary version. It's about the best lens that you're going to get for shooting wildlife for under $5,000. A lot of people will use the 400 millimeter prime lenses with 1.4 or 2 times teleconverters on them and stuff like that, which down the road, when I start making money off of this stuff, I'm going to invest in some really expensive lenses, up my game in that department a little bit. But I mean, you can get an R5 used for $2,000. You can get a used Sigma 150 to 600 for less than $1,000, and that's a good rig. You know, the R5 is still top notch. Simon D'Entremont, that photographer that I'm talking to, I mean, he's got 500,000 followers and just does some phenomenal stuff. He shoots a lot of his stuff on an R5. Of course, he's got a $15,000 lens that he works with teleconverters and all that. But he's also got a lot of experience too. And if I had 500,000 subscribers on here, the ad revenue would be enough to where I could afford that as well. Maybe one of these days. But yeah, I mean, that, you know, if you can get lucky, you can spend $3,000 on the whole thing. It holds 2 memory cards. You can end up spending about $250 on the memory card on it, because it's CF Express, because those are big pictures with a lot of data and they're coming at it really fast. So you really got to have a high speed card to read it, or else it's just going to bog down. But I mean, yeah, say all in all, after everything's said and done, $3,500, you got a damn good rig. Yeah. And for the money versus what you get, I think that's about the best deal. There's probably other stuff that you can get out there, but from a performance perspective, I think this is about the best you can do. So anyway, if you got any other questions about that, of course, hit me up. I'm more than happy to talk about this stuff all the time. And let's see. Yeah, Danita says, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel and stuff, because you gotta do that. We gotta get up to 100,000 subs. We've only got to do this 10,000 sub thing nine more times, and then we'll be there. Let's see. Okay, so now I don't have to turn on your camera. Pencil Dragon, hello, good to see you, man. This is my dad does wildlife photography too, mostly birds. It's quite the challenge. Only shoot snakes in studio conditions, a lot more control, but less impressive. And see, that's the thing, man. I would love to put more reptile photos out there, and I know it can be done. I know you can get some really impressive photos of snakes and lizards and stuff like that, but from my eye, as much as I love my reptiles, I have always just been completely blown away by birds of prey and predatory animals. Bears, wolves, lions, cougars, eagles, osprey, hawks, all of that stuff. And catching those things, doing their thing in the wild, just is I find it amazing. And having the privilege to be out in this area and where those things are at. I need to go to Alaska. Probably get eaten by a bear trying to walk up and take his picture. But at least I would go out with a smile on my face for a second. But hey, Rachel made it. Good to see ya. Derek, hello. Good to see you as well. Glad you made it. And I know we're running a little bit late. I'm not going to just bail right now because we're all talking about stuff. And the typically what happens right about now is we end up cutting it off. See, before I started the Patreon Zoom calls, I would do these live streams and we would sit here for like 3 hours and just go through comments and shoot the shit and all that stuff. But since I had so many other obligations and stuff like that, and I couldn't always be tied to the house, I decided to schedule the Zoom calls right after the live stream. So we did we did from 7 to about 8:45 to 8:30 on the live streams, and then take a couple quick minute break and have a smoke and a coffee, whatever, and then go right into the Zoom calls. So that's kind of what our schedule is. So yeah, we'll cut off here in a minute, but I want to make sure we've hit everything. But yeah, for everybody that's in, like I said, man, make sure you're hitting like on the video. Get down in the comments if there's anything. And this is always something that I like to hear, you know. I'll get on here, especially like today, man. Right before, 6:45, I'm sitting here kind of like this. I've been sitting at the computer all day long and, you know, doing take after take, trying to get that video right and trying to get everything out and doing research and jumping down rabbit holes and just sitting here getting all that stuff worked out. So like 6:45, I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do a live stream tonight. I just want to curl up and, you know, veg out in front of the TV. But it doesn't matter. Every single time I feel like that, as soon as it gets started, I'm always glad it did. And somehow we always manage to make it at least an hour and a half with plenty of stuff to talk about. But if there's anything that you guys would specifically, any questions or anything like that, man, by all means, jump down in the comments and throw them out there. If I say anything during any of the live streams that's not right or that I need to be checked on, you know, but like I said, throw it down there. And, you know, we're on here every Saturday, so we can do any topic that you guys want to. We can, you know, throw out any corrections that need to be made and stuff like that. Talking about video ideas, maybe something you guys might like to see just a regular published video on. Like I said, by all means, feel free to jump down here and use and abuse me to your heart's content. That's what we're here for. You know. And it does help me out too, because it can be difficult sometimes to just sit back and guess what's the community want to see. You know, what video can I make that's going to do good? Because, you know, people talk about clickbait and whatnot, but the fact of the matter is, anybody that's a content creator on YouTube, like the first rule is you make content surrounding what's trending at the time. So current events, all of that stuff is always the stuff that gets more traction. Call it opportunistic, whatever, but every content creator does that. I do to some degree sometimes, but I just hate doing it because I hate looking like I'm jumping on a bandwagon. Sometimes you got to, but yeah, so I'm always open to new ideas of something that people think would take off or do really well or whatnot. Tara say, never have the patience for a camera like that. It does take some patience. When I first started trying to figure everything out, man, it was really confusing trying to get everything working right. And, you know, there's some things that you need to know. And even still, I struggle. Like when I'm out there at the river's edge and I'm waiting for these eagles, the light is always changing. There's clouds, there's times of day. There's, you're able to get a certain amount of light on the sensor at a given time. And if you don't get enough and you've got to raise your ISO too much, the pictures come out shitty. So it's a fine balance that I'm always out there fine tuning the whole time. I probably come back 75% of my pictures was all like metering pictures, trying to get everything right so that when the good shot comes, all my settings are like they're supposed to be. But it's getting easier. It does become second nature after a while. Another thing that's really good for anybody that's thinking about doing anything at all with photography, probably the most useful part of this Canon R5 is it's customizable to a great degree. More so, my understanding is it's the most customizable camera on the market. You guys may know there's you've got cameras, they've got the picture mode, they've got the video mode, they've got different video modes. Almost all of them do. But the one cool thing about this camera is in less than a second, I can have access to 3 different modes of focus and 2 different video modes with just a couple presses of a button. Like I've got the back button focus that I use. A lot of you guys, if you've used the cameras before, you know that, a lot of them have got the half press where you half press and it starts to focus and you press down the rest of the way and it takes a picture. Well, I've disabled that and I've got my focus buttons on the back. So like one of them I've got set up for a point focus right in the middle. So whatever is in the middle of the screen, it's going to reach out and focus on that point. So if I'm shooting through a bunch of trees and there's branches halfway between me and the target, if I hit a regular autofocus, it's going to snap onto those branches. But I can hit that middle one and then focus through everything to what I'm getting at without having to go to manual focus. The other one that I use is a zone that I use so that anything that's in the center of the screen, it's going to lock onto and follow. And that's really good for stuff like young eagles that don't have anything that really stands out and they're flying in front of trees, because the eye focus won't really pick up on that. And then the other button that I use is for the eye lock on. And that, like if I've got these little kingfishers hauling ass across the water and they're against a solid background where they stand out, then I can immediately pick that thing up and hit the eye focus and it locks onto that little kingfisher's eye and just tracks him through the screen. So all 3 of those I can go to in an instant. And then there's a video button that I've got set to 1250 frame per second, 60, or the shutter speed is 1250 at 60 frames a second. So I can shoot video that I can also pull stills out of. So I can actually pull the photos out of that video, and then I can do a 50% slow motion on it too, without losing any picture quality. And there's another button on there that I hit and it switches the video mode, that video mode, and then hitting one of my focus buttons that I reset to start recording, then goes to 120 frame per second slow motion. So there's 2 different video modes and 5 focus modes that you can hit just like that. That's been the most useful thing to being able to follow these things along. I can be sitting there, I can be tracking a bird in flight. I can take a video of him and immediately switch over and just start catching 20 frame per second photos through the whole sequence right there, and switch back between video and pictures while the thing's flying in front of me. So just kind of get that out there for there's a lot of cool things that you can do if you've got the interest. And, a little bit of patience, a little bit of perseverance. It takes a lot of getting used to. But, once you do, it's really cool to be able to take that thing out and know that in an instant, you can pick up anything that happens around you as long as you see it. Unless you're not chimping and being a bonehead like I am half the time and flipping through your pictures and looking at what you just took while freaking bald eagle flies in front of your face and you miss the shot. Which, that happens sometimes. Sam says size does matter. Damn right it does. It makes all the difference in the world. Yeah, that lens is relatively, it's not as heavy as it looks, I guess. I don't know. I'm just so used to working with that thing now. I'll tell you what, man, it's really cool. You go to the zoo with something like that, and you just get some killer shots. You guys probably seen some of the zoo shots that I've put up with that. You say you didn't get the focal length, f-stop. The focal length on this, it is 150 to 600. It's 600 mil. It's a minimum f6.5, and I think at 150, as fast as it goes, is like an f5. So it is a lens that you got to have a lot of good light for. But that's another thing. It's a really good match with the Canon R5, that full frame sensor on it, because the R5s handle high ISOs and low light a lot better than a lot of other ones. You can still, you can bump up your ISOs and you can still get some pretty sharp stuff with it. So yeah, that's like I said, this lens maxes out at 600 millimeters, and if I was to get a teleconverter for that, and if I got a 2-time teleconverter, I'm going to lose 2 stops of light on it. So it's going to be an f8, f9, something like that when it's all the way out, which you need really good light for. But that takes you out to 1200 millimeters with that 2-time teleconverter on it. So that'll happen at some point, I'm sure. But not for a while yet. I got to make some money first. Hey, Bert. How you doing, sir? Good to see you. Nameless made it in. I don't know how many of you guys are still on, because I'm way behind on the comments, and because I've been sitting here bumping my gums. Yep. Yeah, that's the same thing with me. He says if he dies in the jungle, just know his last words were, "Here, kitty, kitty, kitty." Kai was talking about a guy taking a video of mountain lion cubs and then a mother showed up. I have not seen that. I would legit shit kittens in that situation, but I also know that if I seen a bunch of mountain lion cubs, I would immediately start walking the hell away because I don't want to fight mama. So. Yeah. Anything new with USARK? Yeah. I mean, we're coming up on, we're well past our time. But, yeah, nothing new that I'm aware of with USARK. The same alerts are out. And I've got the banner running across the bottom there. I know just about everybody that's here hanging out, and regulars. For anybody that's here watching that is not a regular and hasn't heard me say this 100 times already, go join USARK. If you got any questions about them, message me. If you've got any concerns, I'll answer them. If you want to know how to get your membership, I'll let you know. If there's anything that I don't know, I'll call the president of USARK and ask him so that we can get your questions squared away, so that we can get you on board, get your membership, and get you supporting the most important organization in the world for reptile keepers. So don't slack. If you're in here, become a USARK member. Like a regular bronze membership is $40 a year. So for less than a cup of coffee a month, or whatever it is. I mean, of course, you can't get freaking cup of coffee anymore for less than $5. So there you go. $40 a year is not a big deal. The numbers matter. Get your USARK membership. And you get a cool t-shirt too. It changes from time to time, but you get a t-shirt with it. So look at it like that. Spend $40 and get a t-shirt. How much did you spend on your last pair of shoes? Okay. That's enough. Let's see. God, I'm so far behind on all the comments and stuff. Yeah. Let's see. Avery City is uploading a video tonight on his new reptiles in the Iguana Mansion. That's cool. We'll have to check that out. Faux show. I don't know, any of you guys seen Amy Benzie? If you follow her on Facebook, man, you've probably seen it already. But she has got this really awesome Medusa costume. And she is running around Tinley today. At least I think that's when the pictures were taken. Yeah, she's up there at Tinley today, running around in that Medusa outfit. Friggin' awesome. Love it. You guys that don't follow Amy Benzie, you can go back. You can see we had her on a live stream. I think it was last weekend, maybe the last weekend, or weekend before. Like I said, what's time, man? It's all running together for me lately. But yeah, we put out a video with her, and then she came on that following Saturday for the live stream. So run down to the channel, go to the homepage, check that out. Can't miss it. And she has got some really cool emerald tree boas. So far behind. I am going to you have to bear with me. I'm kind of making sure that I don't miss anything. I may miss something, but block. First time catching live. Thanks for the videos. Awesome, man. It's good to have you here. And I won't block you. You seem cool. I think we've only actually had to block one person, if I'm not mistaken. We had one other person come in and try to troll one time, but we pretty much made him look like an ass and he left on his own. So, let's see. Okay. Where are we at? Yeah, like cars. Okay. So, it looks like that's it, guys. We're a little bit late getting to the Zoom call, so I'm going to jump off of here. We're going to get that Zoom started up. I'm going to take a couple-minute break. And so, yeah, I'll have the Zoom up, but I'll have the camera and audio off for a few minutes while I take my break and get something to munch on, probably refill the water and whatnot. And we'll get on there and hang out. For those of you guys that want to jump in, go to our Patreon page, Intrepid Exotics at Patreon. It's really easy to find. I've got the link all over the place. And yeah, any contributing member gets an invite to our Zoom meetups after the live streams. Got some really cool people in there. You can jump on, turn the camera on, show your animals, ask questions, answer questions, all that cool stuff. We got some great folks hanging out in there. And we all look forward to Saturday nights. I, of course, end up bailing after about an hour because I'm old and I get tired. And especially tonight, I think my eyes might start bleeding pretty soon, about halfway through the Zoom call. So, again, it'll be another night that I make Eric a moderator and bail out after about an hour. But we will be there in a few minutes. Like I said, guys, jump down to the comments. If you got any suggestions, anything to say, I always love to hear from you guys. And those of you guys that we see in the Zoom, I'll see you in a few minutes. For everybody else, have an outstanding rest of the weekend. And we will see you next time around. Take care, guys.